I'm always excited to do a review of a Schuyler Bible, and this Bible that we're looking at here is extra special because it's a new edition with some unique features that we're going to look at. It is the Schuyler Stridon ESV translation, Desert Camel Calfskin Full Yapp. All right, so this is what I'm saying. When you look at this, you can see some unique things here. The edition is something newer for Schuyler Bibles, the Stridon, and it's this also unique cover that's newer to their line in the full Yapp. And they've started to do more full Yapp editions. They have a lot of different cover options available and beautiful covers. They have their more what I would call traditional covers, like the black goatskin cover, and those are premium. You're going to pay a little over $200 for those ones. But if you're going to get one with the full Yapp in a calfskin cover like we're looking at here, this is where you get not just to that traditional premium quality, but almost like a ultra premium level is how I would describe this. And the reason I say that is when you open this and you feel it, when you open the box and you feel this Bible, it just really is incredibly high quality feeling and looking. And that's what I would say is my first impression when I look at this and I hold this is just this is an extra special cover to this Bible. The leather on this, the calfskin, I expected it to be kind of really smooth, and I think the marbled mahogany calfskin is, from what I've heard. But this one is a natural grain, and so it has more of a coarse feel to it. And you do feel the grain when you're feeling this cover. So what I'm really saying here is that this feels incredibly high quality, even compared to other high quality Bibles which we've come to expect from Schuyler. This is really even on a bit higher level, if you can believe that. So what you do see here, though, with the full Yapp is perimeter stitching and a tooled line, as well as, of course, the Jerusalem cross, which you see on most Schuyler Bibles. The side has the raised spine hubs, and the printing here, Holy Bible, English Standard Version, and the Schuyler insignia. And, of course, very simple, which I think a lot of people really like. Gives you just enough information there. Has a really classic look. One thing I will critique about this, I know Tim Nichols, a fellow reviewer, has said that he thinks that this Jerusalem cross with the full Yapp looks off-centered. And I was looking at this, and I think I agree with him, because that tooled line, which frames the text block here, it does actually create visually, I think, a look where that Jerusalem cross now looks a little to the right of what you're looking at visually here. Now, not everybody would agree with that. You can see how it's centered to the whole cover, but I do think with that tooled line, maybe it does visually make this look a little bit more to the right. So that's just a preference thing, and people may have different opinions. You can put that in the comment section below what you think. But I would say, yeah, I think if this didn't have a tooled line, then that would look more centered to me. With the tooled line, I can see why people would think that looks a little bit off-center. That being said, I don't think it's a huge deal. It's just a matter of, your preference. To me, on this one, if you're really, really, really nitpicky, you might say that the printing on the side here is slightly to the right. But I don't know. What do you think? I just know that when some people get a Bible that they've spent well over $200 on, they're going to be incredibly picky at times. But what I would say is, if you look at any printed material, any printed Bible, you could probably find something that you don't think is perfect. So even with that, I don't think that's off very much. But I wanted to point these things out because some people will criticize them. That it's like they're not expecting that something could possibly be not exactly perfect to their expectations when they purchase a Bible like this. This Bible also has 3 burgundy ribbons, angle cut, double-sided, beautiful ribbons. and burgundy head and tail bands, it looks like. It also, of course, has the gold gilt page edges, and underneath the gold you have a red coloring there, red Art-Gilt. It's actually very light. Some of the more recent Schuyler Bibles I've seen have a darker under Art-Gilt, but this one is maybe a kind of medium. It's not as light as some that I've seen, but not as dark as some of the Schuyler Bibles I've seen recently. And already, I'm showing you the Stridon layout here. They already came out with the NASB translation, so this being in the ESV now is going to appeal to all the ESV users and make them really excited to have this. We'll look at the format in more detail, but just continuing on with kind of the construction of this. It is an edge-lined binding, and then you have, of course, this liner. I think they said it's wine-colored. Yeah, wine calfskin lining, and of course the desert camel for the I like the name of that, desert camel, for the outer cover. So desert camel with wine. Not sure what to make of that. As you've seen with the recent Schuyler Bibles, you do have the presentation page and family records pages on cardstock with this ornate border design around the pages. And then you have the title page, the publisher's title page, copyright information, and of course it's all the things that we would expect. This is designed and typesetting by 2K Denmark, printed by Royal Youngblood in the Netherlands. The ESV here, as I'm recording this, is the 2016 text edition, the most recent edition of the ESV, and probably, from what I've heard, the edition that's going to stick around for quite a long time. Here's the contents page. And you have the preface to the English Standard Version, explanation of the features included in this edition. And what you're seeing here already is that it lays pretty flat right off the beginning. So really well designed and constructed. And then the formatting here that we're looking at is really impressive, with the verse-by-verse format, single column. So the advantages of this are that when you're looking for a verse, they're all separated out. The verses are in red print right along the left margin. So that's really easy to find the verses. And then on the right, you have some margin space. So that allows you, if you wanted to write in the margins next to the verses. But also it just provides a nice, comfortable look to the page when you're reading. On the bottom, you have cross-references and translator notes, footnotes, and they're separated out by a vertical line. The font on this is a 10-point size font. It's 28 GSM paper, and the trim size of these pages, it says that it's 6.3 by 9.3 by 1.3 inches. So that's the text block, the size of that. But then with that cover, it is going to be larger than that, especially with a full Yapp cover. But the page size is actually quite similar to what you see in the Schuyler Quentels. And I'll actually show a Quentel here so you can see just how similar they are. This is the RSV full Yapp edition, so I think really gives a good comparison here. And I do believe that the Quentels are probably a little bit thinner, not quite as thick of a text block, but still pretty similar. But what makes the Stridon unique, of course, as I'm saying here, is this format is single column. And when you get to poetry sections, it's really nice because you have plenty of room for the poetic lines there. It is a really beautiful format. And the other thing that I'm trying to point out here is that it really is not much larger as a Bible than the Quentel. Very similar. The Quentels, most of them have an 11-point font. Now the RSV, because it included the Apocrypha, they condensed the font a little bit. So actually these font sizes are considered the same size. So that's really amazing, I think, to have a Bible that is similar in size to the Quintel, and yet you have single column verse by verse formatting, which typically that can take up a lot of space and create a hefty Bible. So they did an amazing job with this formatting, and even with it being single column, I think the line spacing is pretty good. And I think a very comfortable Bible to read. You could just read through this, but also because of the formatting, it would be really conducive for teaching and preaching. And you do have like these premium features about this, that paper 28 GSM, quite opaque. And the ghosting in this, it's line matched. So the ghosting doesn't look too bad to me. You can see some show through in the page, and I think you see that there, but it's really, I don't think, too distracting. It also has this two colored scheme, so you do have red print for the headings at the top of the page, and the page numbers and the section headings. Verse numbers, as I said before, are in red. But the biblical text is all going to be black letter. Here's some more poetry to look at. And I'm very excited about this. The English Standard Version is very popular. It's a Bible that even in my context, a lot of different people use. So it's very useful to have the English Standard Version, and having it in this format is wonderful. I like the way this looks in the poetry a lot. They do have the verse numbers way out to the side here, the very edge of the margin. As we get to the end of the Old Testament and into the New Testament, you have the title page for the New Testament. And as I said, all the text is going to be in black, including the words of Christ. So here we are in the Sermon on the Mount, in black letter for the words of Christ. So I think, most people from the feedback I'm getting online are going to be really happy with the choices they've made in this Bible, including the black letter text. There are, of course, some people who prefer the red letter. But I think for the demographic, the target market for this Bible, the choices that I've seen in this are just going to be very, very popular. The pages are turning very nicely, very quietly. After the biblical text, you do have a table of weights and measures and monetary units, a concordance, and again, that two-color printing for the concordance, and interesting the way they did that with the red for the references. Then after the concordance, you have Bible maps. And these are the maps you see in all the Schuyler Bibles on a heftier Bible paper than what is in the rest of the Bible. It's a little bit sturdier feeling, but not like a glossy cardstock. Then you have the index to the maps, and some cardstock, and the final end sheet there. And that's the end of the Bible. Just really beautiful. This cover, as I said, just has an extra premium feel to it. It's kind of thick. It has some flexibility to it. I wouldn't say it's stiff, but it's also not floppy either. It's kind of in between. And so it holds very nicely, but it does have, I would say, a very supple, flexible feel to it. But then at the same time, you have a very coarse texture and just a thick, hefty feel to the cover. So to me, it just seems incredibly high quality. This is the Wide Margin Reference Bible from the Lockman Foundation, which uses the Stridon formatting. So really, we have to thank Evangelical Bible, Schuyler Bibles, for helping to create the Stridon formatting that we've been looking at. Also available in the NASB, and you can get this in a less expensive edition if you get the Lockman Foundation NASB in the leather text cover. But you can see, same format here. Difference being, of course, the paper isn't exactly the same. This is actually, I think, a 30 GSM paper in the Lockman Foundation one. Not considered as high quality, and yet, in reality, the paper quality in this is actually fantastic. Probably has less show-through than what we see here, but it does, I think, make for a little bit of a thicker Bible. But you have more margin space in the Lockman Foundation Bible, which some people would actually prefer. And it does not have some of those extra features like the two-color print. It's all black. Everything is black in the Lockman Foundation Bible. And you don't have any Art-Gilt underneath the silver. It's just the one color there, whereas in the Schuyler you're going to have the gold with the red underneath. So just, those differences, of course. And this is a paste down as opposed to edge-line construction, just a imitation leather cover. So yes, this Lockman Foundation one is not nearly as premium in its construction materials, and yet it really still is a nice, affordable version if you like this format. But if you want to get the ESV Stridon, you're going to have to buy a Schuyler. But overall, really good size. Not much bigger than a Schuyler Quintel as far as thickness. So again, let me show the Schuyler Quintel and how they compare. Very, very similar. I do think that the Stridon is a little bit longer, but about the same width, and maybe a little bit thicker. Beautiful Bible. If you have any questions or comments about this, I'd love to see that in the comments section below. Thank you so much for taking a look at this with me from a fish perspective.